Hey, Rochelle here. So, in this video that I'm about to show you, I had this great conversation with an incredible person by the name of Lily Lee, who just came out with her book. We talk about numerology in detail because sometimes, you talk a lot about numerology, but when you get people interacting with you and asking you specific questions, then it really opens up a lot more about what numerology is and how it can shift and guide your life. So check it out.
Hi, everyone. I am so excited to have Raschell here with us today. And she is actually going to share some secrets with regards to numbers and how numbers actually play an extremely important role in our life, as in this book. Dragon Activation Light Codes book that I am about to launch on September the 25th. Raschell, pick that date for me. So it wasn't a random date. And she is going to share with us more about numbers. But before we start, Raschell, could you kind of introduce yourself and then let's jump right in?
Sure, absolutely. So my name is Raschell Harlingten. I'm the founder of Roots for Success, my company where we empower people to understand, to recognize, to realign, and to rewrite their stories, their life. Over the years, so probably like more than 20, I have used numerology to guide my life because, it has supported me in so many ways. I'm also a podcaster of the Transformational Soul Talks, which Lily has been a beautiful guest on, and that streams on Spotify. And I love to share people's stories because I'm all about the transformation. I'm also a co-author with Lily of The Journey of Transformation and my own book called The Prosperity Blueprint, and a few anthologies, which you can find all on Amazon on my author's page. So that, in a nutshell, is a little bit about me.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, share with us what. Okay, first secret first. I know there are many, many, many. You have so many. You know so much about numerology. It's just incredible because you know about this ever since you learned about this ever since you were little, right?
Right. So, my father, who was at the time a telecommunications engineer, extremely quick with numbers. He came home one day when I think I was about 14, and he was like, all right, we're going to change our names. And of course, what teenager wouldn't want to change their name, because I didn't like the name that they gave me anyway. So he tried to explain a little bit about what we were doing and why we were changing it, and he explained to us that you can never change your birth date, because that is the date that your soul chooses to come in, and that's the expression based on your birth date when you add it up. But you can always change your name. And in a nutshell, if you go back to Pythagoras, you go back to the Babylonians, you go back to the Vedas, all of that had the same type of information around numerology, quantum physics. Everything in the universe is energy. So it's all based on mathematical formulas. And so when you choose a name, you start to create the plane of the mind of the person you want to be, the traits, the health traits, the personality, the expression on how you're going to show up. Even though your soul has chosen, I want to experience this, because there's 9, in a nutshell, I'll just say there's 9 cycles, 1 to 9. And every number in the universe breaks down to one of those numbers. So you go through and your soul says, oh, I want to be a 5. This is what I'm going to express as a 5. I want to be a 4. I'm going to express a 4. But then you give yourself a name. And then that name is the plane of the mind. What it does is, as I said, it creates all your traits. Some of them may not be good, because if the name is unbalanced or the name has a really bad vibration, there's a lot of things that can happen, and it affects what you want to experience. And it's not good or bad in a sense, but it just means that you don't always end up having the best sort of like balanced life, because the name is unbalanced with your birth path. So that in a nutshell is kind of a little bit about it. So my father changed our first and our last names, so that was big. And I didn't really quite understand it. But fortunately enough, I moved away. I went to Europe, and I had to start calling myself the new name. And so for the first little bit, it was a little weird, because it was like I kept remembering, oh yeah, that's my name. Yeah, I got to turn around. Yeah, hi, that's me. Yeah, because I was so used to the old name. And then I started to really like it. And what my father would do is I went to school overseas every 6 months or 4 months. When I would come home, he would say to me, keep a light journal while you're away. And then I'm going to get you to listen to something when you come home and compare it. And I kid you not, it was so bang on. Now, it didn't go into great, like, specific detail exactly what happened each day, but it would give me an overall energy of each month and kind of what would happen. And I was comparing it to my journal, and I was thinking, wow, this is so bang on. And I didn't know that he had those tapes. Like, I didn't know that he had made them and had written everything down. It can get right down to the day and what's going on and what's going to happen, what the energies, because mathematics is, as we all know, it's very specific. And I think that's why my father liked it, was because he was very good at math, like very, very good at math. So I used it for a long time to guide my life. And then I remember when I got married for the second time, I decided, no, you know what, I'm not going to do it. I'm just not. I don't want to know. I don't want to know. I guess that was my lesson, because I got married, not knowing anything about, like, I knew the person, but I didn't do his numbers. About a year and a half into the marriage, I went to see my father out in British Columbia, and that's where he lives now. And he said, oh, are you going to share with me your husband's date of birth and name? And I was like, all right, then fine, here. And he goes, oh, he's this, and oh, you got married in this year, and oh, this is not good. And I was like, oh God. And so literally less than probably 4 years later, I was divorced. And it wasn't that I had put that already in my head. It's just, and because I tried to make it work, but it just, the numbers, no matter what happened, it just kept getting worse and worse. We were already having a little bit of issues at the beginning, way before I even went to see my dad. And I think that's why I gave up the numbers, just to see. And then I was like, oh yeah, well, I'm going to be divorced. And so I was. I mean, I'm still really good friends with the person, but now that I look at his numbers, I look at the date that we got married, I look at everything, and I could see that it just wasn't meant to be. And then I've seen, my father did this for me, I think back in 2007, I started working for a company, and he said, oh, that's nice. Okay, enjoy your job. And then I think I got pregnant sort of into the year, and he said to me, no, I think it was two or 3 years after. That's right. 2 or 3 years after, he said to me, this company's not going to do well. And I said, well, why would you say that? Why didn't you tell me at the beginning? He goes, well, I'm not going to tell you that when you've started a brand new job. He said, the company, when did he start it? And he started calculating everything out. He said, no. He said, within a year, it's going to go bankrupt. And within a year, that company went bankrupt. And so I was like, wow. And so that's how I've seemed to be so bang on with certain things. I've given him numbers of people that he doesn't even know, and he's just looked at their date of birth, their name, and he's come back with all of this stuff. And it's like, it's the person. And my dad doesn't even know who they were. So I studied with him. I began to teach myself. I began to learn, and I started to guide my life by it. So I made specific choices: when to launch products, how to name my business. My first entrepreneurial business was specifically, we sat down and we calculated everything out to make sure that it was prosperous and abundant. Overall destiny number, when you add all the letters up. And so even in my second business, same thing. We did the exact same thing, because we wanted to make sure that the company was abundant. And So this has become sort of, a guide. Even with my children, I'll be like, oh, you're in this year, you're in this cycle. Maybe not the best time to get on a plane or to drive. Be careful, take your time this month. This vibration for this month is not the best for you. And then I remember my son, and this was just a few months ago, he calls me, he goes, Ma, is this a bad month for me? And I go, why? He goes, I've almost been in 3 accidents so far. I was like, I told you to slow down and not drive crazy. So yeah, it's so bang on. So my
That's
belief in it.
absolutely, yeah, so fascinating, right? So fascinating. And it is, um, it's like so accurate as well, right? It's really, truly, truly fascinating. And so tell us more, like where do we start? How do we explore? Like you mentioned that birthday is,
Yes.
you cannot change that.
You
So
cannot
everything
change it
starts
'cause
maybe with a birthday.
with
Maybe
your date of birth, right? So
date of birth. Okay.
if you're curious, you can go to my YouTube channel, which is Raschell Harlingten on YouTube, and there is about 3 or 4 videos there about numerology. Your first is your date of birth. So when you calculate that down, which is adding all the numbers, and remember, every number is broken down to a single digit between 1 and 9. So if you take all the numbers of your month, your day, and your year, and you add them all together, and then you go down to a single digit, that is the expression that your soul chose to experience. And like I said, you can go to my YouTube channel. There's a whole thing on how to break it down. But once you do that, now you know, okay, well, I chose to come into this lifetime and I chose a 1. Ones are all about expression. They're all about exploration. They're all about very straightforward. They don't want to mess around with anything. They're very direct people. So ones are all about the beginning. This is sort of the beginning of everything. 2s, in a nutshell, 2s are called the counselors. They are the public speakers. They are the they're good as politicians, they're good as teachers, they're good as counselors. That's sort of what the 2 expresses. I'm giving you a very short synopsis here. 3 is the celebrity. It's the musician. It's the person who's the artist. That's what 3s are about. And if you look at many of the famous artists, most of them are probably 3s. 4 is the investigator. 4 is all about being investigating and being very factual. My daughter's a 4, and she's like, everything has to be detailed. Like everything has to run a process, and they'll look at everything through the process before they'll make a decision. And you can never rush a 4. 4s don't like to be rushed. They like to methodically think through things before they get on to what they want to choose. Then you go on to the 5. The 5 is like loves freedom and will like hop on a plane. They'll, explore this side of the world. They'll make a decision. They love freedom and they love to constantly change. They'll be, doing one thing and then kind of like squirrel, they'll be over there and they'll be like, oh, let's try this now. And then you have he says, sounds like the witness protection program. What was that in reference to?
I think that was a while back when we just first started. Maybe maybe not a while back. Just maybe 10 minutes ago,
Okay,
7 minutes ago.
I don't know what we were talking about, but okay. And then you have the 6s. The 6s are the stable. They are the diplomat. They are the ones that want to keep everything sort of, stable and secure. They're very they're survivors. A 6, if you have a 6 in your midst, everything is always taken care of. They're very gentle. They can be very helpful, want to help everybody, very supportive. The 7s are very, they're philanthropy. They're secretive. They think about things. They won't tell you everything right away. They kind of keep it to themselves. They're always looking for the answers beyond the answers. And then you have the 8. The 8 is all business minded. Everything is driven towards the business, driven towards making money, driven towards succeeding in whatever business. And then you have nines, and nines are the spiritual leaders. Usually they are very, very it's a hard life to live, because you're always looking for the answers, and you're sort of caught between the two realms of trying to live in this 3D reality, but you also are connected in so many other realms, and so you're sort of trying to find that balance. So I hope that gives you an idea sort of what our souls want to experience. It goes into a lot more detail, and with that you express all different traits and different things with those numbers. So I hope that answered your question.
Yes, actually, it definitely does, because there's a place that we can start if we wanted to dive into it. What about the master numbers, the 1 1 and the 2 2 and the 3 3? Because I think I might be a 3 3. Does it add up to 6?
So
Or is it a 3
typical, yes. So you would have more, so you would still bring it down to a 6, but you would carry, I'm not sure on the 33s, but I know the 11s, because I'm a master 11, but I bring it down to a 2. So I'm a 2, but at the same time an 11. So those I don't use as much so the type of numerology that I have studied for over 20, 30 years is the one that was taught by Pythagoras. And so the master numbers there are, but I believe the 1s, the 11s carry both the traits of the male and the female, meaning that they carry the strengths from both male and female. They kind of understand both sides. I believe the 22s, I'd have to double check, but I believe the 22s are more feminine. And then I'm not quite sure what 33. If I'd known that question, I would have looked it up, because I'm still trying to learn some of that stuff. There's some of the things that I don't quite understand there, but most of the basics, 1 to 9, I know like the back of my hand. But I just started delving into some of those because my father and I never really looked at that. So I can't really respond exactly to that.
No, that's okay. Thank you. Stephen, I'm just reading the comment. Stephen says the name change. So he's referring to back then the witness protection program.
No.
I think we were talking about name. You were talking about name change.
Oh, I changed my name. You know what? That's funny, Stephen, because people used to say that to me. They're like, "Are you in the witness protection program? Is that why you changed your first and last name?" And I was like, "No." I was like, "My dad just did it because of numerology." And then I had people that were like, "Oh, is he a hippie?" I was like, "No, my dad's a telecommunications engineer." He's like the farthest from a hippie. So, but he liked numbers. So.
Yes, and maybe can you give us some tips, because I know there are probably a lot of authors out there that is watching right now, so they want to perhaps pick a launch date like what you have done for me. And so what do they need to know? Like, I mean, definitely the easiest way is to everyone, if you're looking for a particular number or date, connect with Raschell. It's the easiest way, and she book a session with her. That would definitely be the easiest. But could you give us a little bit of background, like what does it involve? And
Sure. And if you want to throw up my website in there, which is the same, it's raschellharlingten.ca, so you can reach out to me there and we can have a chat. Okay, so ultimately, in a nutshell, this is how it works. Once I take a look at your birth date, I then figure out what cycle you're in. Because again, you go through 9 cycles, right? And each of those cycles is a learning lesson over a period of 9 years. And then you start it again and again and again until you pass. But during those cycles, we then go into each individual. Oh, you forgot the G. I've got a new name. So as I was saying, you go into those cycles, and those cycles are again 1 to 9, and then we look at each of those months and we see where you are, because each month, based on, say you're in a 5-year, you're going to have certain vibrations each month which are going to test you, which are going to give you what you need to move forward. So I then take a look at each month. So say you say to me, you know what, Raschell, I want to launch my book, or I want to launch this event in November. I would look at your cycle, where you are first of all in your life. I would ask you probably, when did you start this business? Because ultimately you want to start your business in a 1 to maybe 2 year. You don't want to go past that, because it's again based on Gaia. It's based on the seasons. You know, you would not, and I love this. My friend Lubana said that, she says it's the best suggestion, or what's the word I'm looking for? I can't think of the word, but she said it was the best way to describe it. You would not take tulip bulbs in the middle of January and go dig a hole in your garden and start burying them, hoping that they would bloom a month later. So the same is with
It's a good
the
analogy. Yeah.
yes, that was the word I was looking for. Analogy. So the same would go, think about it, think of the seasons. You plant the seed begins to grow. You have this changes of weather, it kind of, you have drought, you have rain, and then it starts to bud, then it has the flower, and then the flower turns into the fruit, and then you reap your harvest. You have to go through those cycles, even if they're done in a small period when you're planting a plant. Everything in Gaia is cycles. Everything has a process. Nature doesn't alter that. We as humans do, but nature does not. So the numbers run the same way. You run in cycles. So I would then look at where you are in your cycle. I would then look at, and I would say, well, what the days you want. And then I would take that and calculate it down and find which day has the more abundance numbers. Numbers for abundance are 1s and 6s, 8s and 6s, 6s and 1s, things like that, where 6 is a good thing to launch. A 1 is a good time. 8 means abundance. You want to find those days that have that kind of vibration. And you would even look at, so you would, even the day, it doesn't matter that it's like the actual day itself may not be abundant. It's the vibration of that day based on your cycle, not the calendar that we see that everybody uses. It's based on your cycle. So I hope that explains it.
That's why I did preface, right? I did say the easiest thing to do is actually to connect with Raschell, but to try to figure out the actual date. But could you please explain to us how it works?
So it's because everybody's in a different cycle, not everybody's in a 4, not everybody's in a 5. You're all in different cycles based on your date of birth. So from that, I will calculate where you are and when is the best time for you to start your business. And then you look at the name of your business. Is the name balanced? Is it going to bring you abundance? Or is the name not going to bring you abundance? Again, you want 6s and 8s for the destiny. Again, go to my YouTube. There's about, I think, 3 videos that explain a little bit about business, the name, and your date of birth. And from that, you can start to understand a little bit more about, oh, this is how this works. Oh, and it's funny because when I sit and talk to people, I will ask them questions on where they are in their life, and then I'll start to calculate, and I'll say, so a couple of years ago, did this kind of happen in this, like, general? And they'll be like, yeah, that did. And I'm like, okay, because that's when you were in this year and you were in this year. And so it was a process. Remember what I said before, you have to go through the process in order to have the flower bloom and have the abundance. So I think that's the best way I can describe it is, you have to plant your seeds and water them and care for them and go through the trials and tribulations, learn the lessons, and then reap your harvest.
So I hope you liked it. It was a great interview. I had so much fun chatting with Lily and all the guests, Dina and Gina that came on, and really sharing my knowledge for over 30 years on how I had used numerology. If you have a question, or if you're kind of curious about numerology, definitely check out my links, check out the other numerology videos, and I will see you in the next video.